What's going on, fellas? What's going on? Hope all is well. I just finished watching. We're gonna get straight into it. I just finished watching last night. I watched the Netflix documentary on the murder of Malcolm X, or the assassination of Malcolm X, and it's like 7 episodes. I watched it all the way through. I love Malcolm X. I'm a huge Malcolm X follower of his work. I read his book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, and I really was interested in seeing, what really happened, because it was always thought that the government had a large role in the assassination of not only Martin Luther King, but as what Malcolm X as well. Now we know that the government pretty much assassinated Martin Luther King, but with the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X, that was a very sticky situation, because Martin wasn't going against the Southern Christian, Baptist leadership or whatever that organization was at the time. He was in good graces with them still. And that's really not how Christians move, for the most part. But with the Nation of Islam, you had some real deal killers in the Nation of Islam. And I thought this documentary was really revealing, man. Like, you had the brother who was behind the documentary, who was in it, Abdur Muhammad, put a lot of work in and did a lot of research. This is a regular brother. He's a tour guide up there in DC, but he did a really good job on following through on a lot of information that the FBI had on Malcolm and the Nation of Islam, or the Fruit of Islam. And I was saddened by it, because, when you really look at it, they really beat us with the mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you really sit back and look at it, and you look at the interview that he did with the detective, and I think a couple of former members of the FBI that was following Malcolm, the way they was just sowing seeds in there, intercepting letters, making fake letters. They told Malcolm, they said, hey, man, you need protection. These guys in the nation are going to murder you. And Elijah told everybody to keep their hands away from Malcolm, but at the same time, man, it was just real interesting. Let's see if I can see some of the comments on. Hold on, not that. It was very interesting, man, on how that went down. But at the end of the day, it was 4 black men that shot Malcolm. Regardless if who was behind, who was the hidden hand, it was 4 black men that killed that man. And you can look at it both ways. Either the government had, they definitely was involved loosely. They allowed it to happen. But they did come to Malcolm and say, hey, man, you're going to need some serious protection against your own. And to Malcolm's detriment, he kind of just brushed it off. But he knew they were going to kill him. He knew they were gunning for him. Because Malcolm, man, he said a lot of negative things about Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah Muhammad at the time was like, they Abraham, or their God, brother. You know what I'm saying? He was like their leader. And Malcolm pissed off a lot of Muslims, a lot of black Muslims, by, going against Elijah Muhammad. He was actually kicked out of the nation for basically being disobedient. What Malcolm saw the nation was basically corruption, capitalism. And Malcolm was a firm believer in the actual revolution. Whereas Elijah Muhammad was getting paper, he was making millions of dollars. He was a religious institution, so he didn't have to pay any taxes. So he was almost in the good graces of the government to a certain degree. Because if the government really had a problem with what Elijah Muhammad was doing, they would have took that tax credit away from him immediately and made him pay taxes. But they didn't. It's almost like when you group people up under any banner, whether it be religion, whether it be a corporation or something, the government sometimes will work with you, man, because they don't want no issues either. They don't want a problem with hundreds of thousands of Muslims. But with Malcolm was about that work. He wasn't about the money. I think when Malcolm was assassinated, he had like $150 to his name. Nobody would even put an insurance policy on Malcolm. This is what they're saying in the documentary. But the sad part was how the man who did the kill shot on Malcolm was just walking around free his whole life, and he just died when the documentary was pretty much coming out, or when the interviewer was about to interview him and confront him, he died. So like he got away with murdering one of the most important figures, black figures, of the last 100 years, man. It was deep. That was a good documentary. I suggest all you brothers watch it. Me and Edward are going to do a show about it. I talked to Edward today, Edward Anderson. We're probably going to go and do a little show about it. He's about to watch the documentary soon. So it was just deep, man. I saw it from both angles because there would be no Malcolm X without Elijah Muhammad. And I wish Malcolm X would just started his own thing and not say anything negative about. And I think when you start saying negative things about Elijah Muhammad, that was almost like signing your own death certificate at that point. Elijah Muhammad didn't have to go out and tell somebody to kill him. They wanted to be in the good graces of the nation, so they went out there and killed him. These 4 brothers from the Newark Mosque. And this is all coming from the documentary. And brothers, I know this is a travel channel, but we can really learn something from this. What can we learn? Well, we can learn that when we come together, we're the most powerful group of people in the world. That's number one. When we come together as a patriarchy, $1 million can be made damn near overnight. What do I mean by that? When we have structure, when we create order, when we have a hierarchy, then those are the keys and the pillars of success in any country. And it's time for us, brothers, to kind of move on from, what I like to call paralysis by analysis. We've been over the problem time and time again. We know, how they do us. We know that the game is not set up fair for black men. Even when you coming up as a black boy, they have set-asides for you already. But when black men come together, you build things like Black Wall Streets. You bring corporations that nobody can even compete with closely because of our natural brilliance. So when you're looking at this documentary and you see the power that Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad created together, because there would be no almost universal movement with black Muslims if there wasn't for Malcolm X. But there would be no Malcolm X without Elijah Muhammad. And it's sad that them brothers had a falling out. And the whole movement, MJB, what's going on, brother? And we got to do an interview, man. I think you just left the Philippines, right? If I'm not mistaken. But like I was saying, though, man, those brothers built something very powerful, man, very powerful. And I didn't realize the nation was making that amount of money. They were making millions. They opened up so many black businesses, so it was unreal. And to be honest with you, to me, it seems like the nation died with Malcolm. I mean, they're still around, but they're nowhere near as powerful as they once was when Malcolm was at the head. So this is a quick video, man. Brothers, go check that out. Like I said, this is more or less not necessarily related to travel, but I just wanted you guys to watch this documentary, man, because it's just very interesting to see what black men can really build when we put aside our differences and we get some structure. We have it in us. We just got to get over these matriarchal humps that we have within ourselves. So peace, brothers. Till next time, we will be back.